I am a father squared. I don't know if that's right. I don't know if the math adds up. We just had our son was born. His name is Reese, and he was born about 6 weeks ago. And clearly within that time, there's, if you are parents out there listening, there is going to be some changes. This would be a really good opportunity to talk about one word that we don't often talk about, but it's super important, especially for high school kids, and that is becoming adaptable. I think the more our students can recognize how important adaptability is, or being adaptable in their world, the easier so many things will come to them, and the easier certain challenges they'll be able to navigate when they come. I'm going to break down a few different things. I'm going to break down a few different scenarios of why, first of all, why adaptability and why being adaptable is so important, why some of the strategies that we talk on the show are perfect things to increase the ability to be adaptable. And then we're going to look at specific scenarios of how students can find themselves becoming more adaptable within their high school career. What is this definition anyway? What is being adaptable? Well, it's the ability to navigate and or thrive in not ideal situations. I don't know if that's the exact definition, but that is ultimately what it is. It's being adaptable. So I can't define a word with a word, but it's being able to go through certain situations in their life successfully or somewhat successfully when the situation is not ideal, where it's not perfect, it's not easy, it's difficult. We have to recognize that everything in the world is changing so fast. So while we as people are kind of the same from generation to generation to generation, besides evolution, the world around us is changing so fast. So if we don't become adaptable, it's not a century ago where we could expect what will happen, 10 years down the road. In 10 years, the whole world is going to be so different. Think about this. It is 2023 right now. 2003, the iPhone wasn't even invented. Facebook didn't even start. Facebook launched 2004. The iPhone came out in 2007. And those two pieces of not only social landscape, but technology has completely reshaped how we live our lives. Doom scrolling wasn't even a term yet. There's so much that happens, and now with the brink of AI becoming such an integral part of our lives, and of the VR landscape and the AR landscape, 10 years from now, it's going to be drastically different. So our students have to become adaptable no matter what. Now, some of the skills that we talk on this show are perfect to actually teach this. Resilience. So even though you may not be able to navigate through the situation and be adaptable, what happens afterwards? Are we crushed? Are we just done for? Is it over? Or are we resilient? Are we able to bounce back? Yes, you're allowed to feel bad, but at some point in your life, you need to take the next step forward, however that looks. Emotional intelligence. Being able to look at a situation from an emotional standpoint, have either empathy, have understanding, have love, all of these different things that increase what we call emotional intelligence is another great way to just develop the ability to be adaptable. Because if a student is looking at a situation where they are they're being bullied, the common response is to be able to say, well, this sucks, I hate this, this is not fair, blah, 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 blah. But if they're able to switch it and have empathy for this person and say, wow, it's really sad that the person's like going out of their way to make me feel worse, yikes, their life should be, probably is terrible. And then also coupled with resilience, that's some of the things, again, they can adapt to the situation. And again, a lot of times when we talk about being adaptable, it's because there's a problem in their life. So simple problem-solving strategies, taking a situation and looking at a huge problem in their life and simply breaking it into chunks and saying, okay, how do I attack that part? How do I fix that part? How do I let go of that part? And how do we put it all back together? Okay, my problem is solved. That's part of adaptability as well. Now, what I want to do is I want to break down a few situations you might find your students in where they're needing to be adaptable or need to adapt to the situation. One of the things is the academic side of the equation. So academic adaptability. For instance, work and study habits and study environments. If a student is in a household of 5 siblings and they need perfect a quiet space to study, they may not get it ever. I don't know. If it's the exact opposite, where they're an only child and they actually thrive with some type of things going on in the background or energy just to kind of focus them, some type of, lack of a better word, like white noise stuff happening, then again, they can be adaptable and they could put on some music. They could try different type of music. They can leave the TV on, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but they could try different things and just literally experiment. If the student, on the other hand, is surrounded by so much in their environment and so many distractions, they can figure out, well, maybe they can stay after school to do their homework. Maybe they can set up something outside where they can do their work. Maybe they could do their work at Starbucks or something like that, where they're adapting to the situation. So maybe it's actually study tactics. Maybe we're trying to teach our students to be adaptable to how they actually study. Maybe they have to experiment with, when they're reading a chapter, getting in the habit of taking notes, not necessarily because their teacher assigned them to take notes, but that's now what they do. I can't tell you how many of my friends as adults always, like when they're reading, they're just taking notes on the side. Maybe it's a different way of studying. If they're doing some type of memorization thing, maybe they're doing it to some type of song, or maybe they're doing some type of chunking and grouping exercise in their head. Whatever it is, the more they can experiment, the more they can adapt to the challenge that's facing them. Or maybe it's a social environment. Maybe they have to learn to be adaptable when it comes to their friends and their peer group. I remember for me, when I was my freshman, sophomore, and junior year, I pretty much had a similar group of friends, and there were similar different groups of friends that I did different things with. And I noticed by my junior year, I was kind of losing touch with one of the groups, and I made a conscious effort to spend some more time with a group of friends that I really never spent too much time with, but I was becoming a little bit more of a mature person, and I realized, you know what, those people are a little bit more mature as well, and I'd like to spend some more time with them. And I did. I spent a lot of my time senior year hanging out with that group of people, and that was just being adaptable to the situation, and finding myself just growing as a kid and as a person myself, but then figuring out how that growth will fit within that specific group of friends. And I think that goes to a lot of situations where there's a lot of peer pressure in high school. There's a lot of situations they may find themselves. Maybe they have to make that hard decision of saying, no, I'm not getting in the car with you right now. I'll figure it out. Maybe it's, no, I'm just not going to hang out with you as often because all we do is, hang out and do drugs. I mean, it's like, I'm sick and tired of that. So there is being adaptable in the social situation where they have to make those hard decisions. And that comes with communication skills. That's being able to communicate effectively or not necessarily making a big deal about things, and just kind of knowing the landscape of what's going to happen when they do X, or what's going to happen when they don't do X, or whatever that may be. And then there's the situation of the future. When students are trying to be adaptable to how they will navigate their life, moving from high school to college, and then college to the workforce. Huge transitional point in their life. There is every year, it's like a whole new them. It's like there's so much they're learning, there's so much they're growing, and then they're getting to that point where their brains are finally fully developed when they're an adult, when they're 26, 27, whatever, and all of a sudden the impulses drop, and they find themselves being able to much more critically think about what they're about to say and what they're about to do. So I look at situations like basically embracing the change, embracing the fact that this is going to happen, that every year is going to be wildly different, and every year is going to present new challenges as well as new fantastic opportunities and memories. Or being a continuous learner, something that our students don't realize is that school is just the beginning. They're going to be learning, in my opinion, way more once they're all done with formal school, because then they're out into the world and they are realizing, okay, what they do has an outcome, and what they do, there's a cause and effect. So that's, I believe in, where, at least for me, when I had so much of my learnings happen was when I was all done with formal education. And lastly is transferable skills. So for me, when I was making a formal career change, which was very, very hard, anybody in that situation has to become adaptable. They have to figure out what skills that they have in their life right now and how that can be applied to their professional life. For instance, while I was making this transition, I was also trying to grow a side hustle, and I was learning a tremendous amount of digital marketing skills. I was learning a tremendous amount about Facebook ads and landing pages and funnels and content marketing and all this stuff, that I got so knowledgeable in that for my own sake, that a person came into a job that I was working, and they were trying to sell digital marketing services for the company they work for. And I looked at this, and all of a sudden I said, here's an opportunity, because I hated that job I was at. And I said, ooh. And I made up some weird story. I said, hey, I have a friend who is in digital marketing. Are you guys hiring? And she was like, yeah, I think so. Yeah, take my card. So I called up the boss, and I got the contact name, blah, blah, blah. I got the interview, and luckily I had the skill. I had the transferable skill from what I was doing to present and nail the interview, because I had nothing else. I didn't have any experience in selling. I didn't have any experience in formal experience in digital marketing, but I had the skill. When I was able to sit down in that interview and talk about, lookalike audiences for Facebook ads, they were like, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. So that was what did it. That is something that they can, a transferable skill that they can grow throughout their life, is something that they will be able to use to become adaptable. So there's 1,000,001 different ways that you can implement this in your class and with your students and with your kids, and how to present challenges and how to get through them and how to navigate them effectively. But I think the one way that we can do this is more of a holistic in nature, is to create an environment where you are not solving their problems. So if a student comes up to you and has a conflict, and you are the jazz band director, okay, and they have a conflict, they have chess club every other week during rehearsal, that's 20 minutes, and they're trying to come on time, but they're going to try to make it work, blah, blah, blah. And instead of going to the chess club advisor and having a conversation and then calling the parents and trying to figure that, blah, 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 and it's, they're 16, they're 17, they're 15, whatever it is, they have to try to solve the problem first. And yes, of course you can help them in that situation. And this maybe isn't a bad example, but of course you can help, and of course you can collaborate with your other colleagues and try to figure something out. But at first, you want to invite that student to say, all right, well, listen, I need 3 possible ways that you're going to navigate this. So go home, take a day or two, and come back to me and give me 3 different situations that we can make this work. Because at least it has them going through these exercises of, okay, well, I've got this problem and I need to adapt to it. How do I do it? So that's just, I think, a holistic way of approaching conversations with your students and being able to let them do the hard work first. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I hope you learned some things and got some ideas of how to incorporate being adaptable into your own setting. If you liked today's episode, then let me know by hitting like, hitting subscribe, and hitting the bell notification to be notified of every time I release a new video. And if you really like today's episode, and if you want to learn a little bit more about how to develop some of these ways to be adaptable, especially when it comes to communication, you can check out this video right over here.